YouTube. Well, welcome to day 3 of my birthday countdown vlog. And as you can see today, I have a little guest. I have my little kitty cat, Maxie. He's decided he wants to be on my lap today. So, talking about my 37th year, which was spent mostly in 2009. That was quite a roller coaster year for me that year. I started off the year, once again, unemployed. The previous year, in 2008, I was laid off from my job, and I kind of entered the year rather uncertain of my future. I did have I established my LLC just before I turned 37 that year. And I was thinking of going independent, but I was very trepidatious about it. I was very naive about everything I needed to do with it in terms of billing clients, how much to charge, just the whole 9 yards. I really had a lot of questions, and I was very unsure about how I wanted to approach the entire thing. And I spent the first 3 or 4 months really uncertain of what I was going to do. Thankfully, I still had a severance package from my previous job and some unemployment money that I was getting, and so that really helped me kind of get into the year all right. But as the money was dwindling, I got very nervous, and about the end of March, I started talking to a company, an ad agency, that is based in Miami, and they have a headquarters also out here in Colorado. And it looked very much like they would hire me, but it took quite a process talking to them, and then it took like several weeks. I mean, they contacted me, they talked to me, and then I'd hear from them, and then they talked to me again, and then they didn't hear from them, and they finally brought me out for an interview. A very intensive 7-hour interview, including lunch. I was interviewed by 5 or 6 different people, and there were lots and lots of questions and lots of trying to figure out if I was a good fit for them, if they were a good fit for me. It was a very interesting day. It was the most intense interview I'd ever gone through, but at the same time it was really interesting, and I was really excited about the whole thing. And in the end, they did finally decide to take me on as an independent consultant. So I was able to actually they were my first real client, which was really exciting. And they met my terms in terms of what I quoted them for payment, although I was very unsure about it, and I was very happy that they accepted what I was asking for at the time. After that, it was very interesting. The first 3 months I worked there, I was working there entirely as a consultant, and they're a very interesting company. They're very much what I would imagine working for Google might be. Very intense work environment, very creative, very young, very vibrant, very open in terms of lots of things. They'd have keg parties at the end of the day sometimes. They allowed dogs, people with dogs, they allowed them to come into the office. If you're in advertising and you're a very creative person, it is a wonderful environment to work in. Everything is very open. They don't have cubicles. Only the high execs even had offices with doors and things. And even then, most of them were sliding glass doors that were open all the time anyway. They did have a few conference rooms for when they needed private meetings and that kind of thing, but other than that, it was a very open, engaging environment, very vibrant for very creative people. Unfortunately, the kind of work I do isn't very creative. I'm sitting there staring at numbers and charts and graphs and trying to analyze the trends and figure out what's going on. And for me, I work better in a very quiet environment where I can focus and concentrate. Sometimes I play music, sometimes I don't, but I generally tend to need peace and quiet while I'm doing my work. And so it was a rather disruptive environment, and it took me a little bit of time to get used to trying to focus and tune out all of the creative things going on around me while I was doing my work. The biggest challenge for me ultimately ended up being the commute. They insisted that I work there on site, obviously, and so I didn't get to work remotely like I do for my current clients. But the commute was over an hour each way, and so I had a very long commute. I spent over 2 hours on the road every day. And after the first 3 months, they decided to offer me a full-time position, which ultimately I ended up taking just because I was still very unsure about being independent. I was still very nervous about it. I was nervous about if I lost them as a client, would I ever get other clients? And I wanted the security of, or the presumed security of having a full-time position. So I accepted their offer, negotiated a few better terms in terms of the benefits package, but ultimately accepted their offer. And then for the next 5 months, I worked for them as an employee. You know, other than that, the work environment didn't change any. But ultimately, at the end of the day, after those 5 months, a total of 8 months working there, I kind of got by some politics. I will not go into any details. It was myself and one other person. We both kind of got let go. But other than that, you know, I would say that it was a really great place to work, and I really enjoyed my experience, and I wouldn't change it even after knowing what was going on there politically, which I was completely naive about the politics. I tend to ignore politics. I like to just kind of come in and get my work done. After that experience, much less willing to take on full-time work. The politics, I was just burnt out from it, and I really didn't want to have to deal with it again, and I decided I wanted to really try and make a go of it independently, and thankfully I have been successful at that. Funny story of what happened that year when I got let go. The day that they let me and my coworker go was the Halloween party night, and so everyone was in costume. And here I am in my costume. I have a homemade a German dirndl that my aunt in Germany made for me. And I had a long blonde wig with braids, so I looked like the Swiss Miss. And I even came in that day and brought everyone in my team a hot cocoa from Starbucks to kind of go with the Swiss Miss theme. And I thought, you know, I was having a good time that day until they called me into the VP's office and let me go. But can you imagine, you know, sitting there in my Swiss Miss costume, being told that I was being let go? I will never forget that. That was hilarious. That I was actually living in a townhouse that I was renting from my boyfriend. He owned the townhouse, and ultimately my plan was to actually buy the townhouse so I could own it. And ultimately, because it's the second time in a row I got let go within about a year's time, I decided that it was going to take too long for me to save up the money to purchase the townhouse. So we agreed, and I moved in with my boyfriend, so that's when I moved in with him. And thankfully, everything's worked out. Since then, we get along just fine. We haven't had any major issues with me living here, which is good. And I helped him find tenants for the townhouse. So I moved out, I got the whole townhouse cleaned up, I hired carpet cleaners and everything to get everything spick and span and in rentable order for someone else. And I kind of played the rental property manager's role in terms of advertising the property, seeing people, meeting them, running the credit reports on them, just doing the whole 9 yards to make sure that we found viable tenants. And we did find a lovely gentleman to rent the townhouse who was our very first client, our client tenant. And so that worked out. And so at least that kind of kept me busy while I was out there looking for new clients and or jobs or something. So that was, yeah, 2009 was a really interesting year for me and lots going on. And anyway, so that's what happened that year. And well, hopefully you enjoyed that little story, especially the Halloween part. That was just crazy. Anyway, until tomorrow, bye.